unorganized sectors, because organized sector, as you would know, is a very small section, and it's hardly 5 to 7% of jobs which are there in the organized sector. So, and the country needs to have jobs, so we also need to focus on unorganized sector. It's of course led by the industry, because there has been a huge gap so far between the education institutes as well as the industry, and hence skilling helps to bridge that gap. And finally, it's a matter of choice of the youth. So we want to make it aspirational for the youth, so that just as they seek a BTech or an MBA, they should also be seeking vocational training. There are a lot of, in terms of implementation, there are a lot of challenges that we face, right from the mobilization of youth. Since it's not aspirational so far, it's a huge story for us to actually make it aspirational for them. Be it rural or urban, people don't want to get skilled. It's very difficult for us to make them understand that a degree is no longer what somebody should seek. It should also have a lot of skilling in it so that you get better jobs. So mobilization is a key space. And then you have funding, because again, once you mobilize, there are a lot of government schemes which are free of cost. And hence, how do we make this course such a course that people are willing to pay? Which means there has to be a placement by the end of the course. And finally, the quality, of course. Needless to say, if there is no quality, we are not going to go ahead. I have already spoken about the mismatch which is there between the education and industry. 56% of the dropout of high school kids who are there would like to go to higher education. 54% of the youth believe post-secondary studies have improved their employment opportunities. 83% of the educationists, strangely, believe new graduates are ready to work in the industry. However, the industry doesn't think that they are ready. Just about 53% of the employers feel that they are ready, and after about 30 days to 60 days of training, they are actually on the ground and on the shop floor. And hence, there is a huge gap which needs to be bridged. Here's a very simple mapping that we have done. We have done several studies. We have done skill gap studies, youth aspirations, and so on and so forth. You will look at two axes here. One is the incremental manpower which is required, and one is the youth aspiration. And this is just for in general, but you also have for Telangana, you have for rest of the states as well. So while you see building and construction, transportation, unorganized sector being high in terms of number of employment, the aspiration is very low. So the aspiration for IT, ITS is high, and the incremental employment is very low in IT, ITS. So it is very paradoxical that the youth wants certain sectors and the employment is completely in a different sector. So I talked about 4 challenges. There's a larger challenge here as a country. Like I mentioned, that there's a new ministry which has been designed to deliver. We have National Skill Development Trust or Fund. Most of the CSR funds which employers have, as well as the government funds which need to go to skilling, actually they can be deposited in this fund. And then you also have the National Skill Development Agency, which is NSDA, which believes in the guidelines, and it also talks about the vision and philosophy, and also trying to link the 23 ministries which are there at the juncture. National Skill Development Corporation, we have sector skills councils, which I will talk about, as well as vocational training partners and several vocational training centers. We also ran a program called STAR, which some of you would have heard of, and that's been famous and as well as infamous. However, we are looking at how we could use the positives, and we are also coming up with a STAR version 2 very soon. So the framework of skill development is very clear: to create a pipeline of skilled people, to correct and align the supply and demand, which is the skill gap today. Look at global common standards. We have already linked with Australia, UAE, maybe the next one that we'll go for, where we still, and we have both demand and supply from Australia and from India. Connecting and matching the supply with the demand and catalyzing entrepreneurship. Incidentally, this Ministry of Skills is under Ministry of Skills and Entrepreneurship and Youth Affairs. So the entrepreneurship also is quite a key element here. We are into schools, colleges, polytechnics as well. There's something called choice-based credit system, which is you could have electives of vocational training today. So a child who is in the 9th standard up to the 12th standard can take up vocational training as electives and then forward, which means graduation, post-graduation and so on. And of course, we are also trying to reform the ITIs. ITIs come under the Ministry of Skills now, hence NSTC has been requested to reform these ITIs in say West Bengal, Orissa and so on. It of course depends on the state engagement. And not many newer institutions, new look, feel and the quality of skilling. So I think this is the right juncture where we can talk about sector skill councils. We have about 31 sector skill councils for each of the sectors, right from construction to IT, ITS to retail and so on. These sector skill councils are actually run by a governing council, and the governing council are representatives of large and as well as small medium enterprises. So it's a combination of both. Incidentally, in the morning I had a meeting with Dr. Reddy, Mr. Satish Reddy of Dr. Reddy's. He basically has been in the governing council of life sciences. He's the chairman of the governing council. And similarly, we have retail by Reliance, we have L&T spearheading construction and so on and so forth. So the idea is to create a vision, to fund vocational training partners, to enable, and that's where the sector skill council play a large role. They also have the key result areas of training the trainers. They need to align as well as accredit training partners. They need to fund as well as set the standards. They actually look at the national occupation standards of their particular sector, which means if 80% of the job roles are there in that particular sector, those job roles, what is the standard that one has to keep in terms of skilling is what they set. And the vocational training partners align themselves to those national occupation standards. Some of you might be interested in becoming vocational training partners, and hence I thought it would be a good idea to share that who actually gets funded. So any organization, in fact we encourage both for-profit as well as not-for-profit organization, which can scale up. So we are not for organizations which are may take lesser than 5,000 per year. So minimum of 5,000 scaling is what we expect. Up to 75% of the project cost is given by us, and the rest 25% is equity from the individual. And it's largely debt loans, combination of debt loans, equity and grant funding. The grant is very less, as much as possible we reduce it. We keep it very low. And of course, if there is a special focus on PWD or if it is on weaker sections, tribals, etc., naturally the proposal would be far more fruitful. There has been a complete transformation of the ecosystem. So far, people were trained, there was apprenticeship and so on. However, now with the sector skill coming into the picture, not only are there standards and course alignment, you also have assessments which is done by a third party. So which means that if I am a student, I go for the skilling through vocational training partner, I will be assessed by the sector skill council's assessment agencies. So it is it's a complete third-party assessment, and then you get accredited. I've already talked enough about the sector skill councils. They also have to look at something called labor market information system, which means in their sector what kind of employment is available, what kind of skilling, what kind of supply, which states, district level skill gaps, and so on and so forth. So they're also mandated to do that. I think the earlier speaker, Anand has already spoken about the top 3 employment generating industries, which are building, construction, retail, and transportation and logistics. So far, the qualification pact and NOSes that have been created are about 166 in level 5. So we have something from level 1 to level 10 depending on the competencies, and each of these levels are aligned to that particular school or college. So for instance, level 4 is what we look at for an 8th standard child, and so on and so forth. So this is how it goes from 9 to doctorate, and different assessment bodies for each of these, as well as the levels of competencies. Like I said, we are trying to create the aspiration for skills, so not only the quality of placements are important, but also advocacy. So when I talk to you, So you talk to 10 more people, and that's how, word of mouth, we actually garnered a lot of youth for this kind of skilling. We have mobile kiosks. We have, in fact, we have the ad which is Hunar Hai To Qadar Hai, which you would see in TV series and so on. We've got a prize from in the national level for that. And of course, there are job fairs and panchayats and so on. We also were in Vibrant Gujarat and so on and so forth. So we're very happy to come engage with as many education institutes, CIIs in India and so on. So happy to come anytime. And NSDC, we are a very lean team, about 42 of us handling the entire country for that matter. And each one of us have our own roles to play. However, in addition to that, we also like to do a lot of advocacy around skilling. We have something called World Skills as well, which is a competition similar to Olympics in the skilling space. And from India, we send a team. And there are large organizations which sponsor our students in different sectors. And there are national level competitions and so on. And finally, there is a world competition that. So this year, we would have it in Sao Paulo, in Brazil. With CII, of course, we have a lot of partnerships. We encourage the members to look at business opportunities as a BTP. We also have, we expect them to hire certified employees, encourage existing employees to get certified. Upskilling is the other thing that we look at. Our BTPs also come to your industry, be it SME or larger organizations, to do upskilling. Participation in UDAN program. Now, UDAN is a program for Jammu and Kashmir graduates and postgraduates where we hand them for you, skill them, and then they get employed in your organizations. And then finally, of course, work skills, any kind of support, be it your own students who want to be, your own employees who want to be upskilled and then go for work skills. And finally, direct usage of CSR. That's all. Thanks a lot.
I will take a couple of questions for Sapna if there are any specific only to what she's mentioned here before she has to leave.
Do you have a separate skill council for food processing or is it clubbed with agriculture?
With agriculture.
Do you have a separate skill council?
Yeah, so it's
for food processing and
agriculture.
agriculture?
Agriculture and agriculture extension as food processing.